and welcome to my review on the Sage Oracle Espresso Maker. Outside of the UK, this is also known as the Breville Oracle Espresso Maker. Exactly the same product, just slightly different branding for the UK market and international markets. I've had this machine for about 3 years. I paid about £1,600 for it. I know, ridiculously expensive espresso maker. I am a total coffee holic. I love my coffee. Yes, even I thought it was a lot to spend, but over the years I worked my way up from the cheap and nasty steam pump espresso maker to manual to a semi-manual machine. My previous one before this was the Gaggia Titanium bean to cup espresso maker, and you could say I've kind of taken a step backwards because the bean to cup is all about one button and it does everything. This is a little bit more hands-on. You feel a little bit more like a barista in a coffee shop with this machine. So externally the machine is made of metal. It's extremely weighty. You certainly won't want to move it around. It sticks well to the cabinet. You know, you can open, you can close, you can apply quite a bit of pressure and it's not going to move anywhere. It's really sturdy once in place, which is great because you don't want it to be twisting and it moves as you're trying to put the portafilter in. The drip tray is nice and large. It comes out. Underneath the drip tray you have quite a little handy tray that comes out, and this contains your cleaning products, your brushes. This is placed in the portafilter when you're running the cleaning cycle, and it will push hot water through the back of the system. You also get little brushes, you get extra steam wand, you get a device for removing any pucks that get stuck in the filter basket. Underneath the machine there's a dial here. Now if you turn that dial, what it does is it lifts the machine up and a roller wheel places down. So now it literally moves around easy. It's on casters. If I just quickly turn the machine around, at the back you have access to the water reservoir which comes out. It is a large capacity water reservoir. There's also a filter that you change and you buy and you change every couple of months. Okay, that's the back. This is a large capacity, it fills in easy. However, you don't have to do what I've just done to put water into the back. You can pour water directly into the front of the machine, and there's a gauge at the bottom that shows you how much water is in there. So I tend to fill my machine up all the time from the top because it's against the wall and it's easier to access, and only when I need to change the filter do I spin it around and remove the back of the system and clean it out completely. So place everything back in. Everything fits together really well. This is a really well built machine. Of course you'd expect that from the price. Small, although effective cup warmer at the top. You can turn it on and off. I don't bother putting my cups on top, but you can place your espresso cups on top if you wanted them to be warmed. This machine has a clock in it, so you can set it to switch on in the morning. However, slight drawback, once it switches on, it stays on for half an hour and then it turns itself off. So you only kind of have a half an hour window where you can use it. So you do have to be a little bit more careful of when you want it to turn on. So when you come down to make a coffee, it's still on. Once it's warmed up, you switch it on again. It doesn't take that long to warm up. I'll show you it warming up in a second. But yeah, it's an EU regulation, which means that it can't stay on for too long. It has to switch off after half an hour. Bit of a pain. My Gaggia before that, you could literally tell it to switch on and switch off at a certain time and it will do that. This one, a little less. I don't tend to worry about it too much in the morning, switching it on. I just come on and switch it, on manually myself. 3 main parts. You have the burr grinder, you have the espresso maker itself, and then you have the steam wand. You do have to move it around, so you are the barista, but it does a lot of the hard work for you. So for example, when you put the portafilter into the grinder, you click once, it will grind the correct amount of coffee beans for a double shot. It will then apply tamp pressure, which you can adjust how much pressure and how long it applies that pressure for in the settings. You then remove the portafilter and you'll have a perfectly compressed coffee puck in there for a double shot. You then place it underneath the machine. You have a single shot or a double shot button. I always tend to use double. You press that once. You'll get 7 seconds of pre-infusion, so the pump will be slightly lower and it will say pre-infusion on the screen. That's just wetting the puck and allowing it to expand slightly. And then after 7 seconds, it will apply the full bar pressure, which will extract all of the espresso. Without getting too technical, ideally, the 7-second pre-infusion, you shouldn't see any coffee dripping from it. Only when it applies the full pressure should you start to see the coffee pouring out of the machine. And then roughly by about 30 seconds, you should have a completed double espresso. As I said, this is a double only machine. There is a button to extract a single shot, but it extracts it from a double dose of coffee. So technically you're wasting coffee if you don't do a double shot. I use double shots in all my drinks just because I love coffee. You could quite easily do a double and split it between 2 cups. There's a hot water button, so if you press that, there's a slight section underneath the coffee maker where hot water will pour out. Great if you're making tea. I wouldn't say it's 100-degree boiling, but it's as close as. This machine also has a long black or Americano setting. So my previous Gaggia bean to cup, if you wanted a long black, it would extract the espresso and then continue to put hot water through the coffee puck until the cup was filled to the top with black coffee. That's not what you want, because basically you are then over extracting the coffee beans and you are putting too much water through it. You end up with bitter coffee. This machine extracts the espresso and then pours in the boiling water till the cup is to the right height. It has 3 built-in settings, or you can have your own custom. I just customise it, put my cup under, check for the espresso, put enough water in so it's how I like it, and then in the morning I just press it once and it does it for me. Black coffee, made perfectly. Finally, you have the steam one section. Now, normally when you are making texturised milk, you have to hold the jug underneath at a right angle. You have to make sure that you're getting enough hot steam and also oxygen or air into the coffee at the same time to make that texturised milk. This takes away all that hard work. It does it for you. You can select, first of all, how hot you want the milk to be in degrees, and it will tell you if it's happy with what you have selected, because too hot and you can scald the milk and it won't foam. Too cold and you're making a cold coffee and you don't really want that. So it tells you if it's happy with the amount of temperature that you have selected. And finally, you can adjust how much air it puts into that, so how textured the milk is. So if you're making a latte, for example, you don't want it as creamy as you would want it if you're making a cappuccino. So you can adjust how much air it puts into the milk and how much it texturizes it. It works really well. I struggle to do latte art with this machine, although it is possible to do it. I find that the milk tends to be a little bit too flat. You do have to stir it a lot in order to get it nicely textured to pour to do some latte art, but it is possible. So that's a brief overview of the machine. Let's show you it in action. You can hear how loud it is and you can see it working. So I'm going to switch it on, and while it's warming up I want to talk to you a little bit about coffee beans. Switching it on. Lights up, nice blue black backlit display. It tells you the temperature of the boiler. This machine has 2 boilers, so it has a boiler for the espresso and it has a boiler for the milk, meaning that you can extract an espresso and steam the milk at exactly the same time. You don't have to wait for it to change at all. Heats up relatively quick, 25, 26, 27 degrees. Please ignore the fact it says clean me. This now needs its cleaning cycle to go through. The portafilter holder, that also heats up, which is what commercial professional machines do. This is very much a professional commercial machine scaled down for the home market. You are certainly paying for a high quality machine with this espresso maker. Please don't think that it's overpriced. You are getting all the professional features in a home machine. So, 40 degrees now. Coffee. Please buy coffee where it tells you the roast by date. Forget ever going to a supermarket where the bag of beans has been on the shelf for months and months and it has a sell-by date of like 2 years. Ignore sell-by date. You will get rubbish results if you buy your beans from a supermarket. Even if you go to like Waitrose or Marks and Spencer, coffee beans are very, very particular. What you must do, please do this. Buy your coffee beans from either a shop online or go to a specialty coffee shop or any coffee shop. I wouldn't even recommend one of those well-known coffee brand shops because even their coffee beans sit on the shelf for months at a time. What you want to do is get your coffee beans and you want to look for the roast by date. Then, if you want the best beans, because beans that have just been roasted aren't that great, they need to breathe, they need to settle for a bit. So what I do is I look at the roast by date, and ideally you want 2 weeks after it was roasted. That's when the beans are at their optimal, okay? That's when you will get the perfect results that you need from this machine, okay? Or basically any coffee machine. So, roast by date, 2 weeks after the roast by date states. Ignore sell by dates, ignore best before dates. Don't buy it from a supermarket. You want the roast before date. If you're in a supermarket and it says roasted on, then yeah, great. But I have never seen that. Never ever have I seen that in any supermarket. If you do though, then by all means get it. You want the roast by date, okay, or roasted on date. 2 weeks after. That's when these beans are, okay. So, I'm going to place them at the top of the machine. We're at 84 degrees now, so this coffee machine is almost ready. It's defaults to 93 degrees, which is Sage's optimal temperature for extracting an espresso. Of course, you can adjust that. You can adjust anything on this machine. You are in total control, but 93 is what I would say is the best temperature that you should stick it at. I have my beans set to 15, okay, so you can adjust it by turning it up and you can turn it down. You can do this while there are beans in it. Some machines say that you can only turn a dial once it's grinding because basically you are moving the burn grinder closer or farther apart. With this machine, you're fine with it, you know, that's what you'd expect from what you've bought. So I'm going to keep mine on 15. 93 degrees, so now the buttons have all lit up to tell you that it is ready. On the other side, the temperature for the steam wand has switched on, 64 degrees. So let's now run through making an espresso. You can see it working. Here we go. So clean portafilter. Place under. Now I've just put the beans in as you saw, so there's probably a little bit of a gap in the grinder. So the first time I do this it may take a little bit longer than it normally would, simply because obviously the fresh beans are working their way through the system. But here we go. Now it's tamping. And it's done. That did take a lot longer than it normally would, simply because it was flushing through the beans in a cleaner system. So here we are. Now you have a nice close-up. Smells amazing of a perfectly tampered coffee puck. Nice and clean, no mess whatsoever. So now you place that underneath. I like to use these coffee cups which have a line on. I got this from Wittars quite a few years ago, just because I like to use it as a measure. If you are being very particular about your coffee, then the rules are you should actually weigh both the pre-extracted puck and how much coffee you extract from the puck itself. So a general rule would be weigh it empty, grind, weigh it again. That tells you how much coffee is in the puck. Let's say it was 15 grams of coffee. You are then going to extract the coffee and at the same time weigh it, and you're looking for a 1:2 ratio. So 15 grams of coffee should give you 30 grams of espresso. That then needs tasting, and you need to think, is it a little bit too bitter? Is it sweet enough? And you would finally adjust maybe 31 seconds, maybe 29 seconds, maybe 32 seconds. That's down to your particular taste and how good your taste buds are at testing that coffee extraction. Of course, once you've found the right time, you can then adjust this so it replicates that time every time. You don't have to wait every time. I don't do that. I just leave mine at 30 seconds. As long as I get 7 seconds of pre-infusion and then up to 30 seconds of extraction, I'm happy with that. I find that that's a really nice espresso, especially if you are mixing it with milk and not drinking it neat. So, I'm just going to pre-warm this. I'm going to place it underneath and I'm going to use the hot water. So hot water just to warm up the shot glass, pour it underneath, and then we are ready to go. So here we are, a double shot. So we're pre-infusing, and now we've got the full pressure, and as you can see the espresso is starting to come out of the machine. That's, in my opinion, what you are looking for. 7 seconds of pre-infusion, and then up to 30 seconds of coffee extraction. You should get a very nice crema, excellent coffee, perfect, ready to go. There we go. So that is your espresso made. As you can see, settling like a nice pint of Guinness. You can see the layers really well. You have the dark espresso at the bottom, you have the settling layer, and then you have a very thick crema at the top. And as you can see, the line is pretty much spot on. The crema is very thick, sitting on top of the espresso. That smells gorgeous, and now it is ready to be drunk just like that, or to go into a milky coffee. So with this machine you get accessories. You get a empty puck dispenser, so you can whack the portafilter on top. I tend not to bother using this. I just whack mine straight into the disposal in the sink because it's easier to do. But you do get a nice puck bin. You also get a small but nice designed milk frothing jug. Okay, this is the one here. It's got sage on the bottom of it. Yes, always want ice cold milk and hot steam, not warm milk. And once you start steaming, you have to see it through to the end. You can't warm it back up again if you make a mistake. So, always wise, because even though it's got 2 boilers, is you'll get condensation in the steam one. So, always wise to purge the steam ones. You see this happening in coffee shops. You can press up for manual. So I'm just going to purge the steam one now, and you'll see a bit of a jet of water come out and then steam. That's fine, perfect. So I've got my steam temperature at 64 degrees. If you adjust the dial, you can change the temperature. I'm going to leave it at 64. If you press it, you can then say I want latte texturized or I want cappuccino texturized. So obviously cappuccino is a lot more foamy. I'm going to leave mine towards the cappuccino side. I'm going to lift up the wand, and it only lifts up that far. Place the milk under and then leave it. On the steam one there is a white line. You must make sure that the milk comes to at least that white line level. not too much over and certainly not too low below, otherwise it won't work properly. And then one press down, and I'm going to let the steam wand get on with it. So it tells you the temperature as it is steaming. It's fast, not as fast as a commercial machine in a coffee shop, because I would have done it by now, but 25 degrees, 26 degrees. The milk is starting to become a little bit foamy. You can see it texturising, it's starting to rise up the jug. 34. As it's extracting, as I said, I could be making another espresso at exactly the same time. I can do everything, hot water, everything at the same time as the milk is steaming. 55 degrees, 60. You hear the milk starting to get hot. 64 degrees, and it stops. Now, if you need to, you can manually apply more. Just going to move that down. Now, a nice feature, though, you do have to remember that it does it when you place the wand back. It automatically purges, which it doesn't because I manually overrided it. So you do have a nice texturised milk, nicely done. Keep it moving, and then you can, like I say, I've always struggled to do latte art in these with this machine. I don't know why, but I find that it doesn't work as well as I would like it to, and it hasn't done it again. But still tastes really nice. So that is my review of the Sage Oracle espresso maker. If you have any comments or any questions, please leave them in the comments below and I'll do my best to get back to you. Thanks for watching.